Morning, folks. Hey, it's David here, and we're on a rainy. Also, I see you guys are talking about rainy and wet. It's raining and wet here too. I would like to go out one more time before the winter comes sets in, and I actually am gonna try to go out do some winter painting. But yeah, today it's pretty damp out there, and so welcome, guys. We're gonna doing this little village scene, probably in Switzerland. I think I'm not sure, but cheers, everybody. Here's my morning cup of coffee and haven't taken a swig yet. So we're working on 300 pound Stonehenge Aqua, and we are going to be doing. I'm hoping that I got a couple people saying that I'm not loud enough. Something with my system. They had to put it way up. Let me know if my sound is okay today. I did a couple of things to it, and hopefully it's a little bit louder, hopefully, so you don't have to turn yours all the way up. But my microphone is basically right in front of my mouth almost. You can't see it, but it's right here. See, it's right there, and it's very close. And so hopefully it's loud enough. And I'll speak a little louder too. But let me know if it is not loud enough. So we're gonna get started here with the lights. And as you can see, the light, if you look on the picture right over here, it's the background sky, the sky back here, and the lights of the town itself are lit up. And so that's the warm. And so everything's gonna be cool except for the warmth in the city, right down in this area. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go right in there. And this is a practice for me. I've never done one like this. It's kind of neat. It's gonna be all blues, and I'm gonna have the orange warms right through here. So I'm gonna right away just put my orange right through here. This one is just gonna take Brilliant Orange. If you have questions, just let me know. I'm glad it's better than last week. I'm fooling around with the sound system here. Hopefully it's getting better. All right, so I'm just gonna put orange and yellows right through this area down here. I'm also testing a bunch of yellows because I don't know which yellow to use. I have like three different yellows in this pot right here. We got Hansa, we've got Aurelian, and Permanent Yellow Light. So I'm kind of messing around with the yellows. Yellows are so close. They're not that much different in a lot of the yellows. So I'm trying to find a yellow that's not so vibrant, but then if I have a really vibrant one, I just kind of tone it down with white. So I'm just going to put, there's little lights on here and there. There's lights on in the town. It's a little village here. And so I'm just going to put that in there right now. But I want to make sure that I don't use enough yellow so that when I put the blue over it, that it turns green. I don't want green snow. And I also don't want yellow snow. So we're going to try to just do a little bit of warmth through here. Brilliant Orange, I mean, is my favorite color. My second favorite color. I mean, violet is my first, but it just is really a neat orange. It's a red orange, so it will not turn your blues into greens because there's more red in it than there is or yellow for the orange. So here I'm just, again, putting just little light colors through here. I know it looks kind of dark, the yellow, but again, I'm teaching myself to use a little bit more pigment lately. And as you saw in my newsletter, it's our biggest problem, really, it is. And so I'm using a lot more pigment nowadays and just trying to fill in. And because when it dries, it really does get a lot lighter if it's not enough pigment in there. So don't be afraid of putting pigment into your washes. Now I'm going to do this sky right away. And so I'm just going to go right over the mountains and just do a light blue first. And now I should have rinsed my brush out a little bit because there's a little bit of warmth through here, but that's okay. We'll get a little bit of warmth into there. And then we're going to use Vertider Blue, I think it's called. It's more of a purple blue. It's this one right here. I had to put it over here because I had no room over here with my blues, but it's a new blue that I've been using for snow. But I can also use it for the sky. Because when you use a blue and you start out with a blue, you use it elsewhere too, so that it doesn't it does not so separate. Use it elsewhere, and this is a little bit green blue. I don't know if I want a green blue. Let's go again with more ultramarine blue and verditer blue. What's that? Oh my god, there's black in my blue. So ultramarine blue, I'm just gonna mix that real quick. When there's a little bit of dirt on top of your other colors, you know, just do like I'm doing right now. You just put it in there, wash it out, rinse it on your towel. I'd be interested to see how many people are using towels underneath their paintings. Since I've been starting that, I mean, I really love having a towel underneath my work. I just don't ever have to have it in my hand. I don't have to have cloth because I just rub it down here, right on my surface. All right, so let's just go across here. Keep it light at first. Gonna use that verditer blue. Keep it nice and light, and I'm gonna go darker. See how it goes darker as it goes up. And so I'm just gonna put that. I see how I didn't even put it into my palette. I just put it right onto the paper. I was just about to say canvas. I'm working on paper. I probably should spray the back when I'm working on a flat. I don't have anything underneath it, so it's good to sometimes spray the back so that it lays flat. Because right now it's bowing a little bit, and so that's not a good thing. Even though it's 300 pound. Like I usually taped it down, but I don't like to tape down anymore because I want to have it to frame size. All right, and so we're going to go nice and dark up here. A lot of pigment. Let the pigment soften itself. I'm really been into that lately too, so that you let the pigment soften itself. Like I rub it a little bit, but then you leave it and let it just float into the pigment to get soft and even. And so we got that. Now what I'm going to do is take that same value and do my snow, because the snow is covered on all these rooftops, right? And so it's going to be the same color. It kind of reflects. It's white, basically, and the sky back here is kind of white. And so it's going to be the same color. I'm going to use the same color for all my snow, which is on top of the buildings. And the parts that are not the building are going to be dark anyway, so just go right through everything. This week in my newsletter, I'm going to be talking about how to simplify large areas of stuff. Like this big town. You know, there's a lot of stuff happening in here, but you simplify by, like what I'm doing right now. I go through everything. I don't just do one little part, and make sure that your value pattern through that is really all the same, the values. Even though there's a lot of drawing here, there's a lot of stuff going on here, but when you go to paint it, you paint it through because all those values are the same through here. Basically, it's going to be my different color. It's going to give me the different look between the lights and the dark. So this, even though this is more middle tone, the snow, because it isn't a light, though it is, snow is white. I know it's white, but it's not considered my light of my design. My design is that this area here where it's lit up with a different color, that will be my light, and it'll be different. And then this part of the sky here that the mountain is covering, that's my other light. So this is more middle tone, which I consider more to be more in the dark area. So again, look at all this nice color I put in there, put pigment in there. Just let it float on top. And I could have put it in the mountain, I can, but I'm just going to do the mountain all together with one wash. Actually, I can put it in there too. Just let's put in the light blues in there. I just don't want to reach up to here because that's still wet. I'm going to make that a hard edge later on. But you see how I'm painting through? I'm just getting the snow chops of the snow. It looks like this verditer blue granulates really well too. It has a lot of granules in it. I could actually just wet all this, really. I mean, I could do that and just go in here. And when I do that, I can get my water. Now, the water's going to be a lot darker than this, so you can just go right in there. So before I even start my painting, I look at the design of it. I look at the big picture of lights and darks, which we always do, and to simplify large areas of a lot of stuff happening, so I don't do picky stuff. You know, I don't want to do picky stuff. The steeple right here is going to be darker than this, so I'm just going to go right through that. And so I'm just wetting it with a little bit of color in my brush. And so what I'm doing now is I'm just wetting this with a blue, again, Verditer blue and ultramarine blue. I think this is ultramarine blue deep. And so I'm just putting that in there. So that's my lighter blues. That's my light blues. When I do my dark blues up here, I'm going to dull them down a little bit because that is the background, so I don't want it to be so vibrant. So what I do is I add a little bit of this orange into the blue, and that'll dull it down a little bit, get it a little bit more gray. And I think it's almost kind of dry. I almost don't see a shininess to it, so I know that I can go in here now and get a hard edge, because I want a nice hard edge for that. And so the sun is, you know, it's dropped, it's behind the mountains. I'm not sure where. It looks like it's about right there, and it dropped down. So we're going to take some Prussian blue now, which is a little bit, it's a cool blue. Yeah, kind of a cool blue. It's not as vibrant, which is good. And so I'm going to take that. And now I have to feel there's a lot of water in here. So as soon as I touch it, I'm going to see it's running too far. So that's still wet. And so just by touching it a little bit away from the line, I can tell how much pigment or how much water I need, you know, to make it so it doesn't bleed so far. So it's going to bleed up to the line, but I'm going to wait it's just a little bit more because I want that to be a hard edge. I could use a little bit more pigment and not so much water, because watch it, if I do that, it's not running as far, right? Look at that compared to that. That's a lot of pigment. That's not a lot of pigment. And so see how I could stop it right there? So I can use that. So let's just do that for a second. Let's just go in there and just start the line with a lot of pigment. It's all based on how much pigment you have in your brush and compared to water on the surface and in the water in your brush. But see how I can stop it right there? It's a soft edge. But if you saw the other one I did before that with too much water in my brush, so that then what happens is it just will bleed everywhere. But you can control that. You can control water with the amount of pigment you have in your brush. And also this will not change that much of value because there's so much pigment in there and it's pretty thick. All right, so that's pretty dark too. And let's say I didn't want it that dark, I could put a little bit lighter color into that, making a little bit thicker paint using some of this more opaque color that's a little bit lighter. I can put it in there, and I'm literally putting it lighter with the amount of pigment that's lighter. It's not the paper shining through, it's the pigment that's actually lighter. So knowing which is what you're lighting it with. Are you lighting it with the transparency of the paint, or are you lighting it with the pigment? You know, those are two different things. So you decide on how you want to do it. Sometimes if you need to have a hard edge line in a wet wash, then you're going to need more pigment. And if you can't get that right value of light, then use lighter color. I hope that makes sense. It's sort of like, that's the reason I use white, is because sometimes when you're doing a wash into a wet surface, let's say right here, let's say I wanted to make it not too dark, but because it's wet, and to control an edge, let's say I want to control an edge here, I need a lot of pigment. But if I can't get it light enough, I have to use a light color. You know, use the actual light color, not using the white of the paper. You know, so I'm going to go in here now and just kind of get some of these lines, some of the texture that's in the back of the mountain here. This is a little bit more advanced, but we're at the time of year where we're, you know, you guys have to start knowing that kind of thing about how to use the pigment correctly. You know, this is no longer, you know, basics. This is learning how to use the pigment well and controlling it. You're controlling it, not the water's not controlling it. The artist, are controlling the amount of pigment in the wet wash and making it stop wherever you want it to. Now I'm making this side a little bit darker away from the light. We will start again in the new year. We are going to start with one color and just basics again, because it's always a good refresher for everybody myself included, to start from the get-go and work things from fundamentals, because it's never a bad thing to learn from the beginning again. And I always think it's a good time to start in January 1st, or whenever the first Thursday is that we're doing a paint along. Let's put a little bit of orange in this too, because this is going to get a little bit too blue, but that's, it's okay. It's fine. I like to keep it down a little bit with a little bit of orange in there, because you know me, I don't like pure color into a picture, like pure, right? But there's a lot of artists who do that, where they use pure colors and use a lot of it, and that's fine. Always follow your values. That's the most important thing. I always say, I constantly tell my students, watch your values. Use whatever color you want. Use the intensity too. Just worry about the value that you're showing. And texture then comes, texture comes after that. Getting the right texture for the area. So if I want to get this texture, I can go across it quickly with my brush. Even though it's wet, if it's thick, I can even get texture in a wet surface if I go across the paper quickly with a thick amount of paint. See, over here it's dry though, and that's easy to get texture there. So I'm just going down around this. Now I'm negative painting the village, because the village is lighter than the background. So I'm going to negative paint that so it just stands out, right? Get a little bit of texture up here. Be careful with the edges, because it shows what the actual building is. This right here is going to be darker, so I can just go right in there. You're doing the tops of the roofs, and that's going to be darker too. Also ask questions, guys. If you want to ask questions, go right ahead. It gets darker as it comes down here. And you notice how I'm working the big areas. I'm trying to get the big areas done. The mountains are big areas, so I'm just going to go in here and get that all done. And I try never to come back to an area if I don't need to. Like if I would love to have this all finished back here with trees, and if I need to get that in there now, that's the time to do it, not later. I don't want to come back in here later and get hard edges. I'm going to do everything while it's soft, so it all stays nice and soft edged. Now while this is drying, and I feel it's the way I want it to be, then I can I can move on. And don't move on until you get that part done. Just get it done and then move on. Let me just really quickly, while I said that, I'm going to put a little bit darker trees, and so I'll put a little bit of green into my blue with a quinacridone gold. I'm going to do these trees right here, and that way I can have them soft edged. Put a little green. They're pretty dark. They're pretty dark green. Quinacridone gold. A little bit of purple if you want to dull it down. I like to put a little purple in my green to dull it down a little bit. And this is like the pine trees that are a little bit closer. And actually it should go all the way up here. I noticed that right now. And so it's going to be hard edge. So I'm just going to take my brush and flick it upwards to get like a little lines, and making it look like little pine trees. Go around the rooftop, because that's important. And then I'm going to take a little bit of purple and blue, make it really, really dark. And you notice I go right to the edge, because when I go to frame it, I wanted to go right to the edge. I don't use the tape anymore. And then we'll do darker underneath here, but we're just going to keep this we're going to leave that alone now. So that's the background. We'll take it down through here. It looks like it comes through here. Some trees, and this is still wet, so I can get a nice soft edge. A lot of pigment I'm using. I'm trying to see what I can see over here. Is the rooftop maybe here? You have to watch out, because you're doing two things at once. You're painting the trees, but you're also painting the buildings below that. And so it's really important that you make it look right. And the rooftops and the little chimney right there. You're painting two things at once. That's negative painting, because you're painting the object that's light and this dark object that's behind it. And so there's also a bunch of trees right here that are dark. And since I have it on my brush, why not do it right away? Just go in here. All right, now I'm going to wet the whole front. I'll put this trees a little bit different so that they're not all the same. I don't like a line going totally straight down right there. So I'm going to break it up with a few trees that are a little bit taller. Design is always good to have, breaking up some lines that are, you know, that are straight on your thing, so triangular. All right, so now let's go in here and just wet the whole bottom water. Get all the big, it's a big area, so get it done. Now there is these lights in the water of the village here. So I probably should have put masking fluid down there, especially for the light ones that are going straight down. But I'm just going to use white paint or yellow paint, and so that's just as easy to do. So what color did I use for the sky? I didn't use green, so let's get the green out of my brush. And go back to my ultramarine blue and my vertitor, because that was what the sky was, right? And so we're going to reflect that into the water. Now the water is usually darker than the sky, because you're looking down into the water and you're seeing the depth of the water, so you want to have a little bit of that dark. All right, you guys still out there? I'm not. It's still working, huh? Okay, we got people watching. Okay, that's good. You guys are very quiet this morning. Ask away. I don't mind you asking questions. And this is really dark right here. This will be reflective of this area here. Right, it goes right dark. So let me get this in here. I'm going to put some more waves in this too, and in the picture is just basically solid across it, and I'm going to make it look a little bit more water-like by putting waves, a little bit slight, and you know, usually in the evening it does come down, you know, where you don't have as many waves into the water, but we're going to put some waves in. And let's get it nice and dark. A little bit of purple in here. I'm going from a dark to a light, same thing. Then I'm keeping this like only because I may want to do like this. I may come in here and get a little bit of that reflection in there. And on the side, let's put a little bit dark over here. We can even put a little bit of green into this part because it is kind of a little greener right here. So let's maybe do some little trees over there that are dark. Bring that right into there. This is going to be a big dark area here. So we can put that dark into the water. Reflective. Water just reflects what's above it. You know, it's very simple actually, water to do, because you reflect what's above it. And first you do the color of the water, and then you just take whatever's above it and put it into the water to reflect it. And so this shoreline, also the shoreline that hits the shoreline usually is very, very dark. So I can just do that, and I can do that hard edged. I'm just going to put that in there. And then look above, see what's dark. Like some of these things are dark in here. The steeple will be real, at first it gets light, but then, so way up here should be a little bit darker. So I'll take that out of there. And also you can do this, watch, I can put a little bit of warmth into the blue and just let it float in there. And then later on, like I said, I can go back in and rub parts out that are a little bit lighter. So I'm just kind of getting in there with the orange. Lights. Welcome, Janet. Welcome, Amy. Oh, I see there's an ad going on right now. Let's skip that. Sorry about the ads, but that's part of YouTube to put ads in there. And then we're going to put a little dark in here. Let's get a couple waves in here now. See, I'm just going to put little waves by going back and forth like this. Let me just put this back so I can see myself painting here. I'm just going to go back and forth, take some really dark darks, and put some little waves. You can also reflect the mountains into this area by going like this and putting that in there too. Like make it a little bit darker and kind of reflect the mountains into the Then it's really dark over here, so I'm going to use Prussian blue and a little bit of purple. I'm just going to kind of go down here, and this reflects again. This whole town is reflecting as a dark in the water down here. And so it looks really complicated, right? You have a ton of buildings in there, but you got to simplify it. Hey, Amy. Yeah, I just noticed that they, for anybody who wants to come to Kuga, I just put in a post for Kuga Water Media Workshops in North Carolina. It's a really fun place. I've gone the last, the last couple of times they've had it, at least the last 5 times they've had it, I've gone, and not even teaching. I just go there to paint and take classes, and so it's a great place, Kuga. My favorite, actually. And now I'm teaching there this year in March, and so it'll be fun. And opening for people who have not been there last March comes on Monday. On Monday morning, you can register for going to Kuga. For those that have been there before, the opening for the registration was already. It's happening right now, so you can go in there. They give the people who've been before a little chance to get there because they went before, so they always get a little first shot at the, which is it's fair. It's fair because they were there last year. It's kind of like how it's been for many years. And now it's in Montreat. It used to be in Kuga, in Hendersonville, but now it's in Montreat, near Black Mountain, I think it's called. And so there's my water. See nice reflections in here. Get some nice waves here and there. Make it move. And now let's work on our village. And I'm going to use my smaller brush. And I like to use a flat brush for buildings, only because they're rectangular, and so a flat brush is very rectangular, so you don't have to make like corners with a round brush. The dates. Oh, what's the dates? March. Go to Kuga watermediaworkshops.com and you'll find out the dates there. I think it's the 3rd week is what I'm thinking, but I don't know the exact dates right offhand. But if you look it up at Kuga watermediaworkshops.com, you can see it's a super fun place to go to. You got like 250 to 300 artists, all for 4 days, having fun and learning all different kinds of. There is one pastel class if you're into pastels, but everything else is water media. And we got about, I think, 8 or maybe 8 or 10 teachers. Again, look it up on Water Media, Kuga watermediaworkshops.com. It starts on Sunday of the last full week in March. There you go. Thanks, Amy. Just got here. Did you sketch or transfer? It's fascinating to watch your process. This one, what did I do? I did half and half. I started with I had it. I'd started tracing it at first, but then I just took that off and I finished it because it wasn't. I had to change some things about it. But you do whatever you need to make the drawing perfect. You want the drawing to be on because it's all about the drawing. That's the number one most important thing. So whatever you can do to make it look really good, is I accept it. It's fine. You make the painting look good by the drawing. So now I'm going in here, putting some warmth into the side here with a little bit of lavender. Let's put a little bit of orangey, not orangey, a little purpley, and a little side here. Make my worms a little bit of violet. And the front of this building is a little bit violet. I'm going for the bigger parts in here that are dark. At first, I'm going through and looking, or middle tones, I mean. I go to middle tones first, the big middle tones. Even in the little areas like this, you go for the big parts of things, which is the middle tone, and then you go to darks, and I'm just going to, and depending on how detailed you get, if let's say you're a very loose painter where you don't need to have it so perfect, then go ahead. As long as your big values are okay, as long as this is warm and the rest is cool, then go ahead and make it more messy, make it looser. It's fine. It doesn't need to be looking like a photograph where you need everything super detailed. You can change things around and you can make it really loose, but follow your value study, follow your value sketches, because that is important. That needs to be still the important part, because that grounds your composition, your design. The design of your painting is utmost importance. You need to have it look right. And then, of course, yeah, there is details, and but like I said, if it's more of a kind of a look of washy, or you have a style that's very abstract, that's fine. Use that. And you don't need to make it look perfectly like a photograph, though some people like to make it look like a photograph, and that's you just go and basically draw perfectly. Make sure everything is perfect. That's part of style, and everybody has a different style, and some people like to do it really tight, some people like to be really loose. But design is design. You still have to design the lights and dark pattern. That's still important. Let's see, what is this up here? That's I'm a little bit between both, where it's kind of abstract but kind of a little bit detailed. So I don't make it totally loose, but I also don't make it super tight. So I think I'm kind of in between those two. I'm looking just for the rooftops to make sure that the rooftops are the warm, and see how light some of these blues got. And so I may go over some of them, but it kind of makes it look like it's lighter and it gets darker as it goes away. I look for the big parts again. I go for the big parts of it, and the little details come last. So I can go in here and just get the big parts kind of pushed in. Maybe a little snow over here. Using a little bit of purple, dulling it down with a little bit of orange, which makes it brown, and then you can make that a little bit bluer. Amy says 10 instructors, March 24th to the 29th. You take one class from one person, and but let me tell you, it's a fun week. You have shows and all the food you can possibly eat. It's a buffet, and you're with the teachers, almost 24/7, because in the morning when you're at breakfast, you're there with them. Then you go to your class, then you go to have lunch, then after lunch is back to class, and then after class is happy hour where you go have drinks with the teachers, and then after drinks you go to eat dinner, and then after dinner you go to a show, or the show meaning it could be a talk, it could be a demonstration, it could be a critique. It's a show basically for artists. And then after the show, you go to bed and start out again the next day. So yeah, it's a lot to do, and it's a super lot of fun. And you meet a lot of people. I've met so many people there. It's just wonderful. And again, it's called Kuga Water Media Workshops. And thank you, Amy, for putting all that up there. And it's run by Megan from Cheap Joe's, and so Cheap Joe's has taken it over, and she does a great job with it. And again, I just posted something on Kuga Water Media Workshops on a Facebook page, and you can become it's a private group, and you can just join it on Facebook, and you can I posted last night that my workshop, you don't have to bring any materials, because I will be having Holbein and Legion supply everything, supply all the paper, the paints, and so I'm going to have them supply it, though I don't get it all for free, but I like when all my students are using the same thing, so I just decide to have them helped me out a little bit. And then you're all using the same thing, which makes it a lot easier when I go to teach. With my class, it's going to be gouache and watercolor together. They posted on the one thing, they said it was going to be acrylic, but it wasn't. I don't think it's going to be acrylic, though I can bring some, but it's not acrylic. It's going to be gouache and watercolor. And the website, it says gouache, but when you register, it had in the thing that I had acrylic too, but I don't think I'll be having acrylic. But if it ends up being that, then that's fine too. I'll have them bring me some thing too. It's all the same when it comes down to it, with the acrylic and the watercolor and the gouache, because acrylic just dries hard where watercolor doesn't. And so I apply it all the same though. I do the same thing with my acrylics as I do with my watercolors. I apply it just like I would now, like I'm doing here. But then when it came down to putting like my thickness of it, I would use with gouache. I do that with acrylic, and acrylic also has acrylic gouache too. So you can do that, use that too. I'm gonna make this a little steeple, even though I'm not sure it is, but I'm just gonna make this a steeple. So now we're going to be doing, let's do our little village here now. And I noticed that this blue got kind of light over here, so I'm just going to put the blue snow back in. Another nice thing about Kuga is that it's so, I mean, if you're an artist, you're going to love it. It's just simply wonderful. But you get, at the very last evening, there's a little thing where Chief Joe's will give away a bunch of stuff. So there's a lot of drawings through the week, and so you can pick up a bunch of stuff. They also have a store. They open up a store. Chief Joe opens up a store there. So it's just fun. It's just, you can't beat it. I've gone, like I said, I've gone the last 5 times they've done it. I taught the very first time many, many years ago before COVID. And then, of course, they didn't have it during COVID, but once they started up again, I was just going there to, they also have a class called Paint with Friends, where there's no teacher, where you just go paint with a bunch of people. And so I did that the last 2 times I was there. But this year I'm teaching, and so it'll be fun again. So I'm just keep on going with trying to make my eye go to my center of interest, which is the detail now. I'm at my detail stage where I'm going to go in here and get a little bit more details. Now I notice that this snow over here is way too light, so I'm going to take a little bit of blue over the snow, because you don't want your eye to go down here and be more contrasty, so I'm just going to darken that up a little bit, the snow. Yes, Maria, you get the same students all week, and you only take one of the teachers, and you have them for the whole week. You do get to see what other students are doing. One of the days is called a walkabout, where you walk around and see what everyone else has done. But yeah, other than that, it's your class is your class. You don't switch it. So now we're going to go dark here. My water's not dark enough. See, it's almost black down here, so I'm just going to go back in there, get the big area. You got to get the big areas before you do the small details. I mean, you just get in there and get that all done. So I'm going in with purple, peach black, and Prussian blue, making it really thick. A little bit of Mislone brown, just really, really dark. And see how it lightened, even though I thought it was really dark, but it lightens it. Like I said, it's one of our hardest things for watercolors to understand, is that you got to use enough pigment so it doesn't lighten as much. The more pigment you use, the less it's going to lighten, because it's covering up a white sheet of paper, and it's transparent watercolor, meaning that you can see through when it's really thin. So the thicker your watercolor is, the more it's going to not show through. And if you want a soft edge and you want it to not bleed through, then you gotta do it while it's wet, but then you gotta use extra amount of paint so that it will not let your, see I'm right there, it's soft edge, is all wet, but if I put enough pigment, I can cover up and get a soft edge at the same time. Now I'm at detail stage. Now I got to get all my detail right here. I mean, there's still buildings and such in here, but I'm going to do that after I get my details. Now I'm doing a little bit here just because I have it dark in my brush already. So I can put some of it in here. Put a little bit of a edge right here by taking a little bit out. All right, let's get our small brush and let's get into our details. And this is the final stage. This is step 3, and it's a step where you take time and look at what you got and look at your photograph and make it look like this needs to look like a steeple here, and you got to make it really nice and clean. This is where it shows what the objects are. I'm not sure why I'm using a flat brush for that. Let's use a little round brush for that. Since I'm making a steeple, a brush looks like a steeple, right? Because it goes from thin to thick to thin. Go in here. This is also where you blow up your picture so you can see what you're actually doing. You make it look like what it is that you're painting. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to make it look like a tree and a chapel and a little church back here. And I'll probably darken that a little bit in a second, but first let me just get these really darks in here, little details. And that way it'll soften it too at the same time. Here I've got a bunch of little windows. I probably should put the medium in tone first, but look at how I'm just getting really dark and just getting a bunch of details in here. A lot of this I'm faking too. It doesn't need to be exactly what I see there because actually it's so small on my screen that I can't really see what it is anyways. So I'm making some stuff up here a little bit. You can take it and okay, let's go with some lighter colors now. So let's go with some orange here, brilliant orange. Well, you mix brilliant orange and Scarlet Lake together, you get some of the brightest reds. It's just amazing what kind of reds you can get with that. So I'm getting the warmth. I want this warm because I want this to be a center of interest. And it'll be the brightest bright against the lightest light against darkest dark, and it's gonna show my center of interest off really well. And it's the reason you usually paint the pictures because of the center of interest. It's like that part of the town looks so cool being lit up like that. It looks like it's darker up here and then it goes down to a lighter. So we'll do that. Make it darker on top. Same thing, like I said, part of the steeple here is lit up from that point on, so it's a little bit darker right here. It goes down to lighter. I'll take a lighter yellow and orange down here. And on top, it looks like it's dark. It goes same thing, dark up here, and it goes a little bit lighter as it goes down to where the light source is. This is basically just copying what you see. I mean, there's nothing to learning here. It's just look at the photo and copy what you see up there. There's no big washes, so you don't have to worry about the washes being big or wet into wet or whatever. You just get in there and like you're drawing. This is more of a drawing part. You're drawing with your brush basically. Here's a bunch of trees on the side here, it looks like, and so I'm just gonna tap my brush to make it look textured a little bit. Maybe flick the brush a little bit upwards and get like maybe these are pine trees. I don't know. little bit darks in here. I'm sure there's a couple windows here of some type. There's a boat right here, I think. That's a boat. Put just little reflections in the water again. Put a little bit of that green into the water right away, because water reflects. It's like a mirror. It just is a reflection into the water. Here's a little tree. Hey, Mary Beth, thanks for coming. $1,500, yeah, it's about right. But you gotta think, you gotta remember too, it's part of the meal plan, and you get, I mean, what you get for that is unbelievable. Really, I mean, you get a class, you get all the food, and like I said, you can gain many pounds during that week because you can eat as much as you want, and there's always food and drinks everywhere you go. There's coffee nonstop, you know, in the classrooms, and it's pretty amazing. If any of you ever gone to Spring Maid, I think that used to be in, I forgot where, Virginia Beach or something like that. I never been to Spring Maid, but I hear it was like that. So if you ever been to there, it's kind of like that. It's basically the only one around still that does that, where everybody's together, and you know, it's fun. Highly recommend it. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. Take your friends, and I know it's cheaper if you rent or have a room with friends, you know, instead of single accommodations. And now for people who have never been there before, you may not get the teacher you want, because people who've been there before get the first shot at the teachers, which is, you know, fair, because they were there the year before, and they give them a chance, like, for 3 days to sign up first before everybody else does. And so, and they've got some really great teachers. Look online; they've got some really nice teachers. I would like to take one of the teachers myself, the one who has a painting of a lion in there. I've always seen his work. I forgot what his name is, but he's an awesome, awesome teacher, or awesome artist. I'm not sure how he teaches, but I'm sure he teaches fine. I think he does some things like I do here online and stuff, and so. All right, I'm getting pretty close here, guys. Let me think. Now this seems very not much color in there, so I'm going to take a little bit of orange and just warm some of these fronts of these homes up a little bit, so get a little bit of color in there. And then I'm going to go in with opaques. I will go in with opaques because I just want to make the water and sparkle and give it that kind of a neat look. But you can see now, this is my center of interest, right? It's in a good area. And there's a lot of little stuff happening up here. The window in the church. A little boat again. And now, like I said, I'm going to put in opaques only because I didn't do it when I started. I didn't put in masking fluid to maybe get the lights, because as you notice in the photo, there's a couple of lights that are in there. And so I'll just use that white paint, and I'll put that in there, and I'll reflect it into the water with white paint. And it'll look just as good. So I'm going to put a little bit more reflection in the water than you can see in the photo. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a little bit of pink right here. I'm just going to put that out. Like I said, I'm going to put it opaquely into the thing because it's there. And this boat is a little bit lighter. So, and again, this is done opaque. I could wipe it out too, but you know, this is more of a gouache technique now, where I'm taking like a gouache type of effect by putting in thick and applying that into the water, reflecting it down. And I'm doing it to enhance my painting. I'm not doing it because I'm putting white into the thing because I made a mistake. I'm just using it because it's a kind of a technique that you use in gouache, which we'll be doing at Kuga, is you know, using it thick and then coming in here like the tops and stuff. I can just lighten things up, and again, it's a neat look. I like the look. It's not like I'm fixing it because I made a mistake. I'm using it as a way of enhancing my painting. it's kind of an oil painting technique where I'm going to right now, because then I'm just putting little lights that I didn't hit with the watercolor, and it's not transparent, it's opaque. I can put a little snow in here, and look at, I can just put little tops in there. Doesn't it look cool to put that? I mean, I like it. I will never stop doing that. I know that Sargent did that. You know, he put white into his work. He'll put a little dab in just to make it look cool. You know, so if Sargent can do it, we can do it. John Singer Sargent, you know, one of my favorites, one of my more favorite artists. Hey, if he put white paint into his watercolors, I think we should be able to do it too. Like I did right there. I was an oil painter at one time. When I was in school, I used to go out painting with a friend of mine. We used to go out every Sunday. We used to go out painting. A Mex Ramft, and we would go out painting. And he was a teacher also at the American Academy, and he was an oil painter, and he loved what was the guy's name? I forget now. Anyways, he taught me a lot about oils. I would go out oil painting, but then I took classes from Shapiro, and he became my mentor, and so I just was doing watercolor then throughout the rest of the time. I still, you know, once in a while I'll do an oil painting. I'm trying to do gouache like oils, and so gouache and watercolor, so I kind of mix it all together. And that when I'm plein air painting, I'm pretty much watercoloring it now, but I wouldn't mind adding a little bit of oil into that too. But I've noticed, like, we just had Steve Puttridge do a demonstration for our club here up in Lake County, Illinois, and he does the same thing. He does watercolor. He did a watercolor demonstration, but he mostly does oils now. But I asked him, I go, do you paint a lot of like your oils like you're doing watercolor? And he does. Same thing I would do. I do that too. I kind of work with big washes of oil, and then I kind of get more and more detailed with start with like a watercolor wash, but then I go to more detailed. All right, I'm gonna do one more thing, and then I'm done. And that's behind the church. I feel that this part area here is not dark enough to pop it a little bit, so I'm just gonna take a little bit of dark, and I'm gonna make it, or I'm gonna tap it and just make it look more a little textured behind here. And I notice that there's little parts of the mountain that go up and down and sideways, and so this is kind of more of a technique that you'd use like as an oil painter. You know, you're using it thick and you're just putting it on there. But I think I just want to put that in there so that it pops the church out a little bit. And actually, we're only got a couple minutes left anyways for this demonstration. So here we go. A little bit darker. Go through the steeple. And where would I sign it? I would sign it definitely in this corner because I need a little bit of weight here. So the signature would actually act as part of a design element, putting it a little darker. Or what I could also do is make this part a little bit darker down here. But still my signature would be down here so I can get my eye. Otherwise it seems like it falls off, but it'll bring your eye back up into this area. All right, I think that's it, guys. Let's see, we have a rigger. I just want to make this steeple a little bit nicer here on this side. I'm not sure if that's even a steeple over there, but look how terrible I did that. Oh my gosh. All right, that's good enough. And then maybe it's a couple of antennas here and there. The Shapiro's thing is always putting little antennas on top here. All right, that's it, guys. Thanks again for stopping by and watching it, and hopefully you guys can join at Kuga, and I'll see you in Kuga. That's I do have workshops in Florida, if you're down in Florida in January, but February I have nothing. In February I have nothing because I'm going to be all getting set up for Kuga in March. So we got January in Florida, then we do nothing in February, and then in March we go down to Kuga and have a good old time down there. All right. Thanks again, guys, for stopping by. Have a great rest of the weekend. Sunday, rest of the Sunday, anyways. And I'll see you on Thursday. We have a big painting to do on Thursday. It's going to be very complicated, but I'm going to show you how to simplify it, right? All right, and we'll see you then. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.